Welcome back, and joining us for a look at the day's market action is Jacques Pretorius from Sinayo. Thank you so much for your time, Jacques. The JSE has been on quite a good streak of gains since last week, but also on the currency front, the rand now seeming to be edging closer to the 18 rand level against the US dollar. What is boosting the local market at this point?
I think we are in that phase where there is a bit of uncertainty still. It might be a bit of flow ahead of the elections, thinking that the elections might have a very positive outcome after that, and that might be the strength in the rand. But we're also sitting with certain cycles in the world at the moment, and I think one of the things is that the US dollar being a strong dollar for so many years now, and we're possibly moving into getting closer to an interest rate cut environment, and you see currencies of other world currencies being slightly stronger. So I think there's a portion of that involved in the strength of the rand as well.
All right. Well, let's get into some of the company news that came out today, seeming that earnings season is also picking up. But before we get there, this BHP Anglo-American situation, BHP today coming out saying that Anglo-American had actually rejected their revised offer, saying that structurally they'd still want Anglo-American to go without Amplats and Kumba, but basically saying that they've increased the valuation of the company, where Anglo would actually get more BHP shares. I don't know, do you think that this Anglo-American was justified in rejecting that offer that maybe was still underwhelming?
Yes, I think to some extent, if you look at where the share price was a year or two ago, Anglo's price have fallen quite a bit, number one. Number two, I think if Anglo does a deal, they would like to sell everything, right? So they wouldn't want to end up with another Amplats and Kumba iron ore. So I think the management's still unhappy with the revised offer. And then obviously there's some other bidders coming into the market. Perhaps they're waiting for those to come through. A lot of people have mentioned Glencore, and it might be a slightly better fit. So you've got all these factors having an influence right on that transaction at the moment. And I think there's a lot of water to run into the sea before we'll actually see any sort of transaction. There's obviously competition commission issues, right? There's the issue of South Africa losing more and more companies off our stock exchange, which is not very positive for us. The PIC seems to be very open-minded about it, but I think it's still a while before anything is concluded.
All right. Well, let's get into the earnings. Vodacom releasing their year-end results there. Egypt proving to be good for revenue growth there with a surge of 26.4%. Core profit growing 24.3%, but that did not filter through to headline earnings per share, which slumped almost 11%. A valid share price movement there, as we saw the share price slumping about 3%.
Yeah, I think it came off. I'm not sure if it ended up as badly.
Yeah.
But yes, really the forecast missing what the analysts did expect from the company. Obviously, the big culprits there are the forex losses. They mentioned higher funding costs and the startup costs for Ethiopia. But really, I think that the whole sector has been in some sort of a stress situation for quite a while now. We've seen these share prices of MTN, Vodacom drifting lower. They're not expensively priced, so they are sort of fair value, I would say, at least. I think growth forward perhaps in the region of 10%. I would say fairly valued at this point.
All right. Well, more earnings. Let's take a look at Raubex, which is in a wide range of industries there, not just construction, displaying double-digit top and bottom line growth, stretching in their gross operating, their group operating margin. They even with all the challenges in the different industries that they operate in. We did see a share price hike of about 6% at some point. What did you make of the company's momentum?
Well, I'm very positive on Raubex. I think in very, very difficult environment for quite a few years, they've been able to come up with results. And they're back on free cash flow positive, so that's, I think, a good sign as well. And their order book forward looking good, 25.5 billion expected. So everything bodes well that earnings will be able to grow earnings. I think that it's slightly better than what market was expecting. And I suspect that the earnings will be revised up, the earnings expectations will be revised up going forward. For a company with this history, I think on a 6 multiple looks very cheap to me. The share price having a nice action there today, and I think they're back on their way to the previous highs of 42 Rand.
Yeah, a surge of over 10%. Before we get to your stock pick today, Jacques, quickly, WeBuyCars also coming out with its interim results. I think their first results since they listed. We did see double-digit growth there in revenue, core headline earnings per share also jumping more than a quarter. And the share really has kept its upward momentum since the listing. Do you think that it's in a good position right now?
Yeah, it certainly looks if you look at through the company, they're actually becoming quite a sizable business. Now, I think they mentioned in their report that back in 21, they were selling around about 7,000 cars a month. And March this year was the best month ever, more than 14,000. Buying and selling of vehicles, more than 80,000 for the 6 months. So really quite sizable figures we're talking about here. Market's looking for more than R1 of earnings. I think it's going to be more than that. I also believe that they will be revised up. Obviously, perhaps the headline earnings per share figure, not a fair reflection of how the business produced the last 6 months because of all the once-off costs involving with the unbundling and disposal of certain assets. But certainly, I'm positive on the business, looking good. Around about 10 times, I think, if you add the two halves together on a PE basis, and I think that's fairly priced with possible upside potential.
All right. What else are you positive on today, Jacques? Your stock pick?
I'm going to go for something which is sort of a bit defensive, if you can call it that. I do like Standard Bank. I think Standard Bank the share price has not performed as much as the other banks, and I think it's set to catch up with the rest. I do believe that we are getting closer to a interest rate cut environment, which will possibly take part in the second half of the year. The banks are all very cheaply priced. I think there's a lot of momentum in the banking sector. And I think Standard Bank's going to do the catch-up work in the sector, and you should be doing well out of that share price.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and just laying out what moved investors' money today, Jacques. That was Jacques Pretorius from Sinayo.